Hi, thanks for joining me. I'm going to do a very hopefully short video today covering how to handle your cut flowers. Of course, the packaging today when they come, they are super suspended and wrapped so that you don't have to worry about the flowers actually getting damaged. So remove all of the packaging, the bottle packaging. And before you start preparing the flowers, they generally come, they're coming like this. And this is the bottom, the rubber band. This is the part that keeps them moist. And I will show you I kind of went in and took some out because I didn't want to drip water everywhere. But I'll show you what it looks like. And then this is the packaging. And the flowers are of course there. Now you can do the same thing if you are using flowers from your garden. Alright, you can do it the way that you treat them will be the same way. However, what you want to do is prepare your water ahead of time. So say this was a vase and you're going to put the water line here. You want to add the water to it so that the water is room temperature. If you receive flowers and you want to get them in the water right away, then I would suggest putting your using tepid water, as they call it. Not warm but not cold. So kind of go in between and get the water so that it feels almost room temperature, so that the plants are not being shocked. The flowers, they're already shocked because they've been cut. So now what you want to do is try to transition them back into water so that they will be able to feed off of the water that you place in this jar without being too stressed. And that means the petals falling off, turning brown and dying too soon. So you put your water in here. If you don't have any of the flower packets that you get when you get them from the store, I have used plant food. Just a small amount of plant food in here, not even a whole teaspoon because this container's not that big. So you can put some plant food in here, just a little, or you can actually add some granulated sugar to the water, and that will work too. I've used sugar water in a pinch until I've gotten to get some plant food to put in there, but you don't need that much. So I don't have a vase on hand, and the bouquet will not fit in this small thing. So anyway, just remember, if you fill your water to here, then you're going to have to prepare the flower stems up to that point. Alright, so it comes like this. Don't touch this front part. Leave these intact to hold and protect the flowers. We're only going to focus on this bottom part. So get you some type of shears, plant shears, nippers, and cut this bottom piece off. It's rubber band on here pretty good, which is fine. It's being difficult. So you cut that off and you pull this bag off. Once you pull this bag off, they don't have that weird looking flower arranging thing that they used to have in here. It was sort of a not quite a styrofoam, but it was a foam. They have this rubber band on here, and I put this loosely. It was better than that. It's usually soaking wet. You can take this off or cut this off, it doesn't matter. And then this piece is usually soaking wet, and if you smell it, you can smell there's some type of plant food stuff on there already. Get this other rubber band off because they have them band up pretty good. You don't need this stuff anymore. You can discard that. And now we're going to treat this part. So remember, if I place this in this vase, if this was the vase that I was placing it in, you're going to need to cut at least an inch off the bottom. Don't be stingy with it. They need to be able to soak up the water and food that you're going to put in here. So say you're going to cut about an inch off of there. Bring the bottom of this up about an inch here, because I'm going to cut this off. So if I'm going to cut this off, I'll start, the vase goes from about here and the water level to here. The water level will be here, the bottom of the vase is here. So anything below this line needs to be cut off. Leaves, that is, not the stem. So I'll go in here and separate and make sure, see how that stem is there? If you need to wrap something around here, you can. But this plastic is what it's wrapped in to help keep it firmly in place while it's in transit. And it's okay if it goes up a little. So when I start placing this in the water level is going to rise a little. So I'm going to bring this plastic, my line was here, I'm going to bring this plastic just a little above where I had the line situated here. And that's my mark. I cut everything off, leaves. I cut all the leaves off below that point. All right? So it needs to be done. There's one there. So I'm going to come in, just nip that off. You don't want the foliage below the water line because it will pollute the water. Cause the water to get gooky sooner. So that's all I'm doing. Now remember, if it's roses, they may have thorns on it. This is some type of greenery that they add into it to make the bouquet look fuller. But just go in and cut all that's below that line off. Turn it, flip it if you need to. Separate these. There's another one right there. Just nip them right off. It doesn't matter at this point what angle. Just cut them straight off, straight across. What's going to come into play is when you cut the stems of the flowers themselves. And this one right here, this leaf is right at the line where I said I was going to cut off, so I'll cut it off too. If it's below the water line, you're not going to really see it as part of the bouquet. What's above the water line is what you normally see. That's a filler, and some of these fillers have thorns on them. Some are soft and some are hard, just like rose thorns rather. And you want to trim those off. If you need to, you can trim those off. What will happen is everything that you're trimming, everything you see I'm trimming off these leaves below the water line, they will act as a feeder system to help soak the water into the stem of the rose or the flower. So there is, I think I got all of them. There's one there that's suspect, and I'm just going to pull it off to be on the safe side. And that's the foliage that's with it. There. So remember, I've already prepared my water. So now I'm going to go in and cut 1 inch off the bottom of each stem, foliage included, and I want to cut it at an angle. So when you cut it this time, it has to be at an angle. It doesn't matter whether it's angled up or down. That means angled to the right. When you cut, see, this is angled to the right or angled to the left. It doesn't matter. You need to just make a cut. And it's just easier. If I'm using my right hand, it's easier to cut to the left. If I'm using my left hand, it's easier to cut to the right. It really doesn't matter. So I'm going to adjust this a little bit because I want you to be able to really see the cut without sacrificing. Here it is here. You see that? At an angle. See that angle there? That's what you want. So what it will do is this will sit on the surface and this part will be able to soak up the water. If you cut it straight across, watch this. See, I cut this straight across. This will sit flat on the surface of the bottom of the vase and will not allow the plant to soak up enough water. So you need it at that angle. It helps it soak up that water because this is sitting on the bottom of the vase and keeping it from eating. However, when you cut it at an angle, and that's a really steep angle that time. See, I cut it at a really steep angle. That will sit on the surface like this, but you see all of that stem will be able to soak up the nutrients and the water that's in there. So that's why you're cutting it at an angle. And just use that first cut as a guide for cutting the rest. glass. See that? And then it goes really quickly. Everything is cut at an angle. And it doesn't matter if some are a little, you cut off a little more on one or two than you do on the other one, that won't matter. But everything, including the foliage, needs to be cut. Now you see how this foliage is almost the same length as that. It doesn't matter. I'm still going to go in there and cut both of those. And I should have cut it one at a time. You don't want to try and cut too many at a time because it will damage it and not cut it. So just come right back above that and make a nice clean cut. You want a nice clean cut on these. I'm feeling a few thorns. And I generally don't take this much time with these. I cut these kind of quickly because they're out of water. And they don't have a root system. This is actually the root system, or mock or acting root system here. So I'm cutting all of these at an angle. There. They're all cut. I have one or two that's longer than the other. No problem. I'll just go in there and cut that. Trim it just a little bit more. It's okay. You got a long stem. And this small cuts that you made, this cut on the bottom, and the cutting away of the leaves up here is the only root system that this plant has now, these petals and stems. So if you don't cut it off and get it right away into the water, then it's really just drying up and starving. So now I'm going to place these into the vase for the water. Blend this up. Just rip it to the side. It doesn't matter. Just rip it and pull it on up. And now I'm going to place these. What I'm going to do, let's see my water level. I'm checking my water level. Okay, so check my water level, and my water level is a little higher up than what I thought it was. I don't have a vase right now, so I'm using a canister container that I have lined with shopping bags. Remember, you don't want anything under the water level. And cutting these away is not hurting the plant. It's actually going to allow the plant to feed. All right, so that's it. Now I'm going to place these. You want to make sure there's nothing below the water line. I'm going to place these in the vase or the container of water. So I do this so I know they're rock bottom. They're on the very bottom of the container. And once that happens, now I'm going to remove the plastic. And I'm going to remove this other piece. They have it stapled on here. This is some type of corrugated board that they have on here now. Nice. And I'm just removing this stuff off of here. And now you can fluff the flowers. And let them relax. Because now that's what they're going to do. They're going to start relaxing. So you just fluff up the flowers. All right, so all of this stuff was in between the roses, and I pulled them out. Sorry about the green screen. And now all you do is fluff these. You have to fluff them, but make sure they're in the water. And see, I could have cut more greenery off of these if they're going to stay in this container. But this is a temporary container until I get my vase. And then you can spread them around and arrange the height of them. But the height will vary according to the angle that you place them. So they were standing up straight like this. I want you to be able to see the bottom of the container. They were standing up closed in and straight, and they were wrapped with that corrugated board. So now you're just fluffing them up and allowing them to kind of spread out. Give them some room because the petals will open, and depends on what angle you put them in. They always seem to, they will fall that way and look like they are different lengths. But they were crowded together, and you want them to stretch out because the petals are going to open. That one there. Some are open more than others. Now you want them to get low light coming in, daylight. You want them to have some daylight because they need that, but you don't want them to be in direct sun. And then in about 3 days, because you get instructions when these are shipped to you, but in about 3 days you pour off that water and do it again. So get you another container with some water in it, add that plant food or the flower packet that came with your flowers, and place them in there. Pour the other water off, place the new fresh water in there, and then put these back in and fluff them again. That's all that's needed. If you cut them out of your garden, then you'll do the same thing. Remove, when you cut them from your garden, cut them at an angle. And then when you bring them in, hopefully you've prepared your water ahead of time. Then you remove the foliage below the level, water level for them, and then cut them again at another angle if you need to, and then place them in there. And now they're on the bottom, they're touching the bottom, but because they're at that angle, they can still eat. You don't want to starve them. That's the way to get it to last, your bouquet or your cut flowers to last longer. All right? Do this with any flowers that you bring in. Thanks for joining me. Until next time.